Welcome to Stuck in the Middle, a podcast that focuses on the theme of psychology. And it's always a pleasure to have you with us, Ms. Gautami Tadimalla. We have spoken to you about the mind body connection. We have spoken to you about the psychology of aspiration. We have spoken to you about the psychology of film acting. But today, we're going to talk about the psychology of power.
Ah,
And we know that you are into politics now, even though I don't quite understand why you are into politics, but you are in politics. So I'm a great fan of Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. And so I'm just curious to see how do you understand the concept of power, the psychology of power. And to deep dive into this subject, we thought we'll ask you this question. And obviously, you have had a tremendous experience in the world of India and politics. I always call India not the greatest democracy, but the greatest demagoguery. Yeah, because it's always about that hero worship, etc. So, how has your journey been in politics so far? Because Albert Einstein was once supposed to have said, politics is more complex than physics. So, you were an engineering student at one time. And so, I was just curious to know, why did you get into politics? Cinema was good, lucrative.
yeah. First of all, thank you. Thank you, Tansri. It's really, really nice
Thank
to
you.
be back
Thank you.
again.
Thank you.
And yeah, I like this topic. It is really interesting and challenging. Why am I in politics? The very clear cut, most direct answer to that is I could not be in politics. It's
Why? Why is that you can't be in politics?
because it's quite simply the fact that every person who has the ability to contribute constructively towards bettering the system in any tiny little way is morally bound to do so.
Challenge you. That's what Robert Greene says in his preface. He says, the feeling of having no power over people,
Yeah.
the feeling of having no power over people and the events is unbearable. We feel helpless, miserable. We all want more power, as we see in today's dynamics of a very complex world. So, you want more power or you want to contribute?
No, whatever power and reach I have, I want to put it to a use that
Okay.
serves the larger
Okay.
good. And I will say power, even though it sounds, kind of big headed. Yeah, but a person known to 10 people around has the power to reach those people. You can choose to sell toothpaste or lipstick, or you can choose to sell ideas and
Okay.
thoughts
Okay.
and
Great.
ideals, you
It's
know?
like what Barack Obama says, it's a contest of ideas. But you know what Robert Greene says in his book, The 48 Laws of Power? He says, in today's world, you got to be congenial if you're a politician, but you got to be cunning. And you got to be democratic yet devious. That's what he says, not I said. But it's good to throw it to someone who's just gone into politics in a big way.
No, he's absolutely right because this is the one thing I speak about on so many platforms. I
Right?
said, have your big dreams, work
Right.
hard for them,
Right.
almost be, cutthroat in pursuing your
Right.
dreams, doing all of that. But be kind. Our world is suffering because of lack of kindness. And it's like, people say, you don't get vaccinated, it costs the government so many millions and billions of dollars, right? You're able to clearly quantify that. And when you do the math, you will be able to quantify the impact of a lack or lessening of kindness in society. The price that people are paying today for kindness, starting with loneliness, huge mental health crisis, huge productivity crisis, huge personal crisis, huge family health and family wellness crisis,
Sure.
every which way. So, kindness is the greatest investment that we need
But
right now.
again, to challenge you, you talked about vaccination and how much it saves the government. But today's Secretary of Health, R.K. Kennedy Jr., I think he talks about he's an anti-vaccinator, And a lot of people today are talking about the side effects of vaccination. So it's a contest of ideas. But in this context of ideas, people become very mean, don't they? They become personal, they attack. So is it because people are pursuing power for the sake of power? Or is it because, like what you're saying, it's to do something good?
Okay. I'm going to start with the vaccination part. Vaccinations definitely serve their purpose.
Sure,
There's a
sure.
validated science
Of
behind
course,
it.
of course.
But the vaccination that one takes to people, whether you vaccinate one individual or you vaccinate an entire nation, have to be validated thoroughly, validated for long
Sure.
enough. You need to have enough data. You need to have, all the outcomes that you predict or you want to
Sure.
aspire to. You need to have it validated with enough parameters fulfilled, especially time.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
I think to take a vaccine to market and then mass vaccinate,
Unfortunately, that
which
was something of a
that was a
luxury.
crisis. Yeah, that was a crisis. It was an extraordinary time, right? So I think, yeah, vaccinations definitely have their place. As to anti-vaxxers, as they call them, God bless them with some sort of Jnanodaya Monday. Okay,
I
we'll.
don't know. But it's a contested idea, no doubt about it. But obviously, you have to convince people, and people, when we have had many great leaders, forget about the names, except those who are not around with us anymore. Like Nelson Mandela said, look, I can forgive, but I can't forget what happened to us.
Absolutely.
And then he went in search of power in order to bring better living quality of life for
Yeah.
his people. But unfortunately, the psychology of power, when it's, of course, it's contested when you read Robert Greene, but sometimes you just begin to take it in and say, wow, that's a moment of truth. I bought his book when it came out in 1998, but I never kind of got involved in it until I saw the TikTok 1 minute videos. Yeah, each law in, and the first law was very interesting because anybody and everybody can relate to it. He said, never, never outshine the master. Always make those above you feel superior. Make your masters appear brilliant. Then they are, then they are, and then you will attain the heights of power. Just curious to ask a politician because I do know you belong to a party today that had an outstanding leader, no doubt about it. I might have differences of opinion, but if at all you need to give credit to her, obviously you have to just give credit to her because she was able to blend the West and the East and do whatever she did. But there was a criticism against her that she would never feel comfortable if someone else below her in the party was more superior to her. I just thought I'm going to throw this
Oh,
to you.
I appreciate you asking that. So let me first say I can categorically say that's not true.
All right,
Because
right,
the
right.
kind of person that she is and that she has shown herself to be to
Sure,
many people
sure.
show that she has a humanity and especially a self-confidence that is unshakable.
Of course, of course.
Unshakable. So when you have that kind of a confidence, you're never ever going to be worried about, someone upstaging you, or
Of course, yeah.
these are like
Yeah, I
people
saw
who
one,
stand
just to
outside the frosted
interrupt, yeah.
glass and, see
Just to
distorted.
interrupt, I saw her in one interview on Indian television where she shred the interviewer to pieces because a guy was very rude. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying. That comes from a place of calm, very centered self confidence. When you know who you are and you know the value that you bring to the job that you're doing and your ability to fulfill the commitments you're making that impact
Sure,
people's life
sure.
intellectually as a human, and there's so many different ways.
So would it be an exception? She's an exception rather than the norm?
I think she as an individual is definitely the exception. I don't think we're going
Right.
to see
So, but
another
in
one
the
like her.
norm, do you think law number one would apply in the psychology of power? Always make your superior, don't try to outsmart your superior.
I think that's just strategic thinking. That's kind of almost manipulative. So I would have no problem. Actually, I would, if and that situation comes about, that I am in a position to make those kind of decisions, the first thing I would do would surround myself with the people who are the best in each of their fields.
Exactly, exactly.
And that means definitely more capable, more talented, more experienced than I was.
Exactly, yeah.
I would definitely
Yeah.
do that.
I think they always say you surround yourself with people who are much more smarter than you.
I would surround myself with the people who are the best and most capable and who've proven themselves
Each of their
in their
areas,
fields. Yes.
expertise. And I'm just going to be able to provide the leadership to
Yes.
galvanize
Create the
them
platform,
to
put the
do something.
system together, and,
And to do something
energize
together.
them, catalyze them to make society what it should be.
Great, great, great.
Yeah.
One of the things that we found, or we find today all over the world, and of course, history is a great, history is something fabulous. We can learn so much from history. And there's something, unfortunately, they say history repeats itself, and that's something that's unfortunate that's happening today. There seems to be polarization, there seems to be isolation, there seems to be a movement towards the rightist, towards the right, whatever you might describe it in terms of a policy. You have tariff wars, or you have extreme polarization, religious or race or economics, whatever. But if you had, and of course, you've always had, when we talk about power and you talk about a leader, the norm, not the exception, you find that when the leader is threatened, certain things happen, or people go to the right extremes. So, how do we resolve some of these issues? Because it's not good for the world.
So, you said, politics seems to be moving more to the extreme right. I think politics is moving more extreme, whether left or right.
Yeah, yeah.
And because when you have one extreme, automatically another will come up somewhere to try and
Unfortunately,
counterbalance
not
it.
the left. I don't think it's the left.
It's an extreme.
Right, yeah.
It's an extreme.
Because,
However you
the
categorize
communists
it.
have gone
Yeah.
and
So whatever is the new left is also there, because there has to be a
sure,
counterbalance, right?
sure.
But it's the middle, right, that has to be developed.
But
That is,
Margaret Thatcher was the best. She said, "Don't stand in the middle." Of course, I know we say stuck in the middle, but Margaret Thatcher said, "Don't stand in the middle. A car will knock you down. Take a position, right or left."
I don't believe in that, because I think at the end of the day, a balanced society, a harmonious society, is one that has a balance of all three. It
Balance
is
or
needed.
moderation?
Balance. Balance, because the one in the middle is the moderation.
Okay.
So there has to be a balance. You are going to have extreme passions, extreme views.
Okay.
But the only way that you're going to prevent yourself from being incinerated by those extreme views is to have that middle point.
Yeah.
So having that middle point, that moderate point of view, is essential to maintaining balance, is essential to maintaining the world as it is.
Sure.
There are cycles in society which are triggered because of whatever socio-economical, socio-religious, socio-cultural, inflammation that happens in various parts of the world. And because the world is so integrated today, because of just not technology, but because there's so much of free movement of people across borders.
Exactly. Immigration.
Yeah. So something that is triggered, inflamed in one part of the world, spreads like wildfire to another.
Sure.
But that's where you have to have the moderates who come forward and find the unity and the strength to bring that voice forward and say, no, there's merit in this and there's merit in this, but then this is the point at which it needs to come
We have
together
to
for
take it
larger good.
together. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's not about discrediting left or right, but it's about the moderation where it still continues to serve a constructive and productive purpose.
Lovely, lovely. In the one of the laws that Robert Greene says in Law 29, he says, plan all the way if you are in power, in politics, right, taking into account all the consequences, obstacles, twists of fortune that might reverse your hard work and give glory to others. So he says, plan all the way to the end. But is it possible in politics?
You can make all the plans you want, not just in politics, in
Taking
anything.
into account all the consequences. Yeah.
Yeah, you can make all the plans that you want, but right now politics is so volatile, and there seem to be so many masked players who are either once in a while popping out and influencing outcomes, or who have been there, you know, balancing the power scales unobtrusively behind the scenes. So as I said, you can make all the plans you want if it makes you feel good, but it's always going to be about being on your toes,
Right.
being able to see the larger picture, but you definitely have to be on your toes in the moment on the ground.
Thank you. Thank you. So, just as we come to the end of the podcast of last few minutes, I just want to get your perspective. So, as a politician, how do you understand power? Because, there's so much of contested ideas about power, even though I'm a great believer of what Robert Greene said. But there is lots of contest. We started off, I think, the last 100 years, Marxists, and then, of course, the capitalists. Martin Luther King on the Calvinist doctrine, and Lenin with his theories, etc. People understood power differently. But let me ask you, from one of the world's largest democracies, Ms. Gautami, the largest democracy, of course, huge, right? And I sometimes wonder, how do you run elections? But anyway,
That's another podcast.
yeah, how do you understand power itself?
Power is very simply defined and gets value by its ability to bring about change on the largest scale. And it attains true value when that is used to bring about positive change. Power, when used to create negative outcomes, oppressive regimes, oppression of people, detraction of different sections of society, suppressions of economies, all of that, it inevitably becomes something that consumes itself. So power attains its truest value when it is used for empowerment and for the largest. Yeah. So when you asked me about power, and I talked about power achieving its true identity and its true function when it's used for achieving good, largest possible good. There's also one other very important thing. Power is always, always larger than the person, the individual that wields it. The individual is never the power. Power is the one constant. The people are the transient ones. So any people that choose to define themselves and identify themselves by the power that they happen to wield in their hands at that time is something that will have tragic outcomes for the people that are dependent on them. So I think to understand that the power is something that is in your safekeeping for the time that you are in that place is very important to wielding it in the most productive way. So if an individual has ambitions to be remembered, if an individual has ambitions to leave a mark on the world or to be recognized as such and such, I think the most important thing is for them to realize and understand that the power that is temporarily in their hands is much larger and far more permanent than they will ever be.
Well, Gautami, ma'am, thank you so much for being here. It's wonderful having you. And of course, talking on a very contested subject of power. But of course, as a politician, you are aspiring to bring about a change in the state of Tamil Nadu, where you are, I believe, actively involved. So we wish you well, and we wish you all success. And hopefully, we really hope that you will be in a position of power to bring about the change that can impact society, as you so well articulated. Thank you so much.
Thank you
and
so
as
much,
we say in
Raj.
Malaysia, terima kasih. Thank you.
Terima kasih.
Thank you.